Hello everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play of Neverwinter Nights. Last episode, we cleared out a tomb and happened to recover one of those tomes that Eltura needed. And we've explored everything there is to see in the north. At least that we can see. There's still a few things that I have questions about, but I don't think we're going to be able to do any more up there. Right now, I'm going to see if our companions have anything to say to us.
Is there some...
I'd like you to continue your story from before, Dalen. You have been a true friend to me, Ken. I have been reluctant to speak to you of this, but you did help me recover my mother's brooch. Perhaps you can help me with this as well. I was not completely honest with you about the reasons I left my tribe. It is true I was sent away to prove myself, but there was another reason as well. My mother's death was a violent one. She was brutally slain in a bandit raid on our camp, and I have vowed not to return to my tribe until I avenge her murder. Do you know who killed her? I was out hunting with a band of warriors when the attack came. The raiders hid and waited for us to leave, and then sneaked in with the advantage of numbers. My tribe was outnumbered nearly 2 to 1, but they managed to drive the attackers off. 3 of our warriors fell in the battle, as did my mother. How are you going to track down the bandit who killed her? Do you remember when I told you of the vision quest? How my mother's brooch would bring me dreams to guide my quest? Last night I had a dream. My mother's spirit sent me this vision, I am certain of it. In my dream I saw a terrible axe dripping blood from its notched blade. It was the weapon used to slay her. If I can find the axe, I will know I have found her killer. You may think me a fool, Ken, but I believe I will find that axe. I must, or my mother's spirit will never truly be at peace. I will not abandon the search for the cultists behind the plague. I have pledged my blade to you, and it is yours as long as you need me. But I also vow that I will not rest until I find the axe with the notched blade that slew my mother. Well, actually, remember this great axe that we found? Oh, down in Mutiman's Challenge, dropped by a dwarf? The fearsome weapon is remarkable only because of the distinctive notch missing from its blade. This axe has a notched blade. Is this the one you saw in your vision? Yes! Yes, that is the blood-soaked blade that has haunted my dreams. Then, the one who wields it is dead? Yes, he was a dwarf named Gorkin. They told me there was a sinister dwarf among the bandits, one of many who escaped the battle. Then it is... over. My mother is avenged and her spirit can finally rest. Thank you, Ken. Once again, you have proven yourself to be the greatest of friends. Words cannot properly explain the gratitude I feel. I regret that I can offer you nothing as a reward but my thanks, my friendship, and my courage in battle. The reward you offer is greater than you know, Dalen. Thank you again, Ken. My mother is avenged and her spirit is at peace. Now let us return to the task at hand. Those behind the Wailing Death must still be dealt with. There is actually something more we get out of this. Remember the necklace? It's stronger now. Plus 3 strength and an immunity to fear, instead of just plus 1. Now, instead of 300, we can carry 400 pounds. Excellent! We are stronger. But there's still 5 others that we need to learn of, and we'll know what we're going to be looking for. Let's start with Tommy.
I figured it.
Please level up. Thank you. Oh, you're wearing blue. I mean, it's not a bright blue, it's well... I mean, it's kind of bright. How is that going to help you sneak? Okay.
Tommy.
I'd like you to continue your story from before, Tommy, about your, rival. Aye, the night of the jewel heist, right? I suppose you've been a fine friend, my lord. I can tell you about it. The gem we were after was no other than the fabled Star of Kalimshan. It's the most valuable ruby in the land, but certainly one of the more notorious. Not the most valuable ruby. Sorry. I seem to have suffered a bit of a, stroke. Sorry. According to legend, the Pashas of Kalimshan gifted it to their wives on their wedding night, and the stone glows from within, filled with the tears of their lost innocence. Oh, so the story goes. My daring plan, and Sammy's, was to pluck this stone from the depths of the royal palace, from the very chambers of the Sil Pasha's wife herself.
Why steal it if it wasn't valuable? Oh, the ruby's value is more in the fame one would get, my lord. The sealed pasha would never rest until he captured whoever was responsible for its theft. At any rate, the night came. Sammy and Riga stole into the palace ahead of me, while with Sammy having no idea of my presence. Riga left a trail that was quite easy to follow. I remember being impressed at the time that things were going so well. No guards alerted, no problems whatsoever. I thought maybe Sammy's foul luck had finally turned for once. And then... well, of course, Sammy tripped over a fold in the carpet and took a spill into a suit of armor. It fell over him into two others, and the resulting clatter would have woken Nebuchadnezzar's dead brother-in-law. Poor Riga turned white as a virgin's dainty bottom when he saw the hordes of soldiers charging down the hall. He leapt out the window without first considering we were over the lion pit. Poor fella. That's horrible. Oh, well, I suppose. It's not as bad as that time we tried to rob the merchant guild and I knocked over that vat of alchemist fire and torched all of Sammy's body hair off. Oh, god damn it. Anyway, give old Sammy some credit for stubbornness. He climbed out from under that armor and still came for the ruby. Found me plucking it from its pedestal, in fact. He was surprised to see me, to say the least. I decided to give him a piece of my mind, as I recall. Why, Sammy, I said. Why did you betray me? I've never done anything to you. That's not true. What do you mean? Oh, I admit, I made one or two mistakes in the past, but Sammy and I were pals. Not anymore, of course, now that Sammy turned traitor. I never got to hear his response. Oddly, he just turned all purple and his eyes bulged out and he sputtered a lot. Looked rather like some outraged kobold. The guards ran in just then, and it was pandemonium. There was fighting and screaming and running. Last I remember, I dived into the sea and woke up 3 days later on freighter bound up for Tharselt. Want to hear the funny part? For all that Sammy was a terrible thief, he was a wonderful pickpocket. Stole the ruby off me, he did, and I had nothing to show for all that. What happened to Sammy? Not sure exactly. I'd heard he'd ended up on a slave ship and somehow got sold to one of the high captains in Luskan. Poor sod. Me? I'd like to track down that ruby one of these days. The Star of Kalimshan. Ah, it'd be worth it to make me famous. Perhaps we'll find your ruby sometime. Thanks, my lord. You're quite a friend yourself. Now let's get on with your quest, shall we?
I've been waiting for you.
Oh, Tommy. Remind me not to ever be your... I don't know. Just try not to do that.
I shall do as you ask.
Alright, Grimnaw. Time to kill my throat.
I have been waiting for you. Is there something you...
First, level up. Ooh, you've got actual robes now. Very black, too. Jeez.
Is there something you need?
Alright, continue your story from before, Grimnaw.
My order has many secrets, Ken. Secrets we do not reveal to those outside our monastery. Yet you have proven yourself a friend of the Long Death before. You aided me in finding the Ring of Alaganda. I believe you would have helped me bring death to her had she still been alive when we found her. Perhaps you can be of service to my order once more, for without your aid I fear my brothers and sisters will never escape their terrible fate.
What do you want me to do?
I should begin by explaining what happened after we burned the Lich's lair. The corpses of our own, those who had risen against us, were brought back to the monastery of my order. There we sought to enact ancient rituals to release their essence from the curse that had bound them to their animated corpses. But the chains of undeath are not easily broken. The ancient rituals require rare components, and we had many casualties. A few we were able to save, but the others remain trapped in undeath until we can find more of the necessary components for the ritual.
What kind of components are you looking for?
The components must come from the crypt of a powerful undead monster, but it must be something that has not yet been tainted by the creature's necromancy. For example, we would require the preserved hand from an inanimate corpse within a mummy's crypt. Only the power of such an item can release the essence of my brothers and sisters into the grasp of the Silent Lord. I will not abandon the search for the cultists behind the plague. I have pledged to aid you in destroying those who release the foul taint of the Wailing Death. But during our mission, I will not give up my search for the mummified hand of an inanimate corpse that can release my brethren from undeath.
Well, wouldn't you believe it? Right inside the tomb that we just raided, was this corpse hand. So I've got good news. I have a mummified hand here. Will this do? It was in the tomb of a powerful lich, but I don't think it was undead.
Let me see. Yes, this may work. The taint of undeath has not yet contaminated the desiccated flesh of this limb. Look at this severed hand, Ken. See how the withered flesh has grown so tight and thin, it exposes the delicate perfection of the bones beneath? Isn't it beautiful? I thank you for this, Ken, on behalf of the Order of the Long Death. I have no reward to give you, save the blessing of my order.
The reward you offer is greater than you know, Grimnaw.
You will find that the blessing has enhanced the properties of the amulet I gave you when you found Alleganda's ring for me. Once again, Ken, I thank you. Now let us return to the task at hand. Those behind the wailing death must still be dealt with.
Indeed, and we have +3. +3 Constitution and +10 spell resistance. I would call it handy, except, well, I don't need it. That's not where I put it. No, it is actually where I put it. Alright. So that's 3 of them. Let's move on to Sharwin
I
next.
suspected you'd show up here. Yes?
Please level up. Oh, that's actually... That leather looks pretty nice. I like it, Sharwin.
Yes? Is there something you need?
Now, please continue your story. I believe you were talking about your husband, boyfriend, something like that?
Very well, Ken. I had already told you we'd met the Lady Onaris, correct? That she'd fawned all over Danon, but he'd assured me there was nothing to fear? Well, we were bound by contract now to perform, so we did. We did so well, too. It was not long before we were the toast of Athkatla, praised by the Lord and Lady Onaris at every turn. Nobles showered us with attention and gifts at every turn. Everyone wanted us to perform for them next. I was a bit dazzled by it all, but also concerned. Lady Onaris continued to lavish attention on Danon. She called him to private performances, without me, and he was spellbound, despite my efforts to distract him.
Were they having an affair?
I prayed that it was not so. I suspected, but could prove nothing. The servants were too good at misdirecting me, subtly keeping me from interrupting their privacy. Desperate and angry, I accused Danon of succumbing to her lust. He denied it angrily, and I believed him. Almost.
What did you do?
After one of our largest concerts, I followed Danon as he left the stage. I used what magic I knew to disguise myself, avoiding the servants and keeping pace with him. I felt terribly guilty for the deception, hoping against hope that my suspicions were for naught. Of course, I was disappointed. I watched invisibly as Danon made his rendezvous with Lady Onaris, laying fevered kisses upon her and saying how every minute they were apart was excruciating to him.
You should have left.
You are right. If I had any sense, I would have left. I was young and in love, however, and that leaves no room for sense. In my shock, I must have dropped my spell, for the Lady Onaris spotted me. She did not care. She only laughed lightly and pointed me out to Danon. He merely looked at me and smiled. I merely stood there dumbfounded as Danon called me a foolish little girl. Pathetic, even. Not only did he prefer Lady Onaris, but he had never loved me. I fled, their mocking laughter ringing in my ears. I fled them, I fled Athkatla, and I've never been back.
That's horrible, Sharwin.
Yes, I was devastated. I had left the security of my family to make Danon my world, and it had crumbled around me. As I said, however, things were not as they seemed. I found out much later that Lady Onaris' beauty was the result of an enchantment, a glamour. She had spellbound Danon in the literal sense. I have also discovered that a lock of nymph's hair will break her spell. Danon will be released, and her glamour will end, She will revert back to her natural appearance. Old and fat, so I hear.
Would you take him back now that you know?
No. The hurt was too real, even if the glamour wasn't. At some level, I would always blame her for not being strong enough. It doesn't matter. Everyone should be allowed their little illusions, perhaps. I admit that it would give me some small satisfaction to remove her spell once and for all. All it will take is finding that nymph's hair. One day, perhaps, I shall discover some.
We'll find you some nymph's hair, Sharwin.
I believe you can. It doesn't matter. We have more important things to do here.
Indeed. Don't worry, Sharwin. We'll find that hair. Now, Linu!
I hoped that you would return so...
You were telling
Hey there,
us
dear.
about your husband and what happened with him. Oh, let's find out.
Hey there, dear.
I'd like you to tell me more of your story.
You have been a true friend to me, Ken. I have been reluctant to speak to you of this, but you did help me recover the chalice. Perhaps you can help me with this as well. Synth retired from his adventuring life for a couple of years. Then one day he came home with news that he had discovered the location of an ancient city. I knew as soon as he uttered those words that he would be off on another of his grand adventures. I wanted to go with him, but I was involved in preparing a special celebration for the temple.
He wouldn't wait for you?
I think he had waited for a time when I was wrapped up in something I couldn't get out of. It was his way of protecting me. Synth had a friend who was a mage create a pair of journals. We could write to each other and be in contact every day. I don't know why, but he never wrote to me about his day or his quest. Instead, he would write about his thoughts and philosophies on life and the mysteries. I wish he had written more about where he went.
Why is that?
The last entry he wrote, he spent several pages telling me how much he loved me, and that no matter what happened to him, I must go on. I knew something was wrong and begged him to tell me, but he ignored my pleas. The last thing he wrote was that he could hear them coming again. That was it. Ken, someday I shall find the cave Synth was exploring, and I will try to find that journal. I think that if I could do that, I would be able to get past this ghost that haunts my dreams. We will find the cultist, Ken, and justice shall be done. Then perhaps I can resume my quest. I am certain that the journal must exist somewhere, and someday I shall find it.
Don't worry, we will find the journal and discover what happened to your husband.
Sweet Ken, I know that with you by my side, anything is possible.
It is quite unfortunate and kind of sad, but we will find it. All that leaves is Body Knock here. The one who destroyed his father's garden.
So, is there something?
Alright, level up please, and you got some decent robes.
Is there
Okay.
something you need?
Now, please continue your story about how you destroyed your father's garden. Still kind of hilarious, but I'm not gonna I'm not going to laugh this time. I promise. Laughing's done now.
The pain of what happened with my father, of how I destroyed the garden he had spent a lifetime cultivating, is a very personal pain, Ken. But you have proved yourself to be a good friend. After all, it was you who helped me find the leavened bread. I suppose it is only logical to expect you might be able to help me with my father as well.
What do you want me to do?
I know I can never replace the many varieties of giant plants and flowers that were once in my father's garden, but perhaps if I make a grand gesture, he will find it in his heart to forgive me. Throughout my father's life, there has been one flower he has longed to see more than any other, but one which he has never been able to acquire. Among the great library of Lantern, there are accounts of the prism blossom, a living, growing flower whose petals are said to change color and reflect light as they were made of crystal.
So why don't you get him one of these prism blossoms?
The account of the flower occurs in only one text, the travel diary of an explorer who died several centuries ago after returning from a journey to the north. No one has ever been able to locate this rare flower or its gleaming crystal seeds, though many have spent a lifetime searching for it. It may be the prism blossom is only a myth, Ken, but if I could find the seeds of this flower and give them to my father, I am certain he would forgive me for destroying his garden. I will not abandon the search for the cultists behind the plague. I have pledged to aid you in destroying those who release the Fontaine to the Wailing Death. But part of me is hoping that in our journeys we will be lucky enough to stumble across the crystalline seeds of the prism blossom.
Don't worry, I'm sure we'll find the seeds you're looking for.
You are a true friend, Ken. With you by my side, I'm certain we will somehow find the seeds of the prism blossom, if they still exist.
I have been waiting.
That's definitely going to be a challenge, but we'll try. I wonder if Erebeth and Aaron have anything
I
to
am
say.
pleased to see that you remain safe, my friend. Lord Nasher tells me he is confident of your success, though I do worry at the danger in which you place yourself. Have you yet discovered any new information on the cult?
You said I should ask you how you became a paladin.
I did say that, didn't I? Are you sure you wish to hear the tale? It is not an exciting one, and I would not wish to bore you.
Oh, we can learn more. Excellent. No, I do want to hear it.
As you wish. Do not complain later, however, if you find the tale does not live up to your expectations. I am, after all, no bard. Where should I begin? My family lived in a human village in the wild lands of the northern mountains, and I once longed for nothing more than to be a skilled hunter, as my father was. The village was destroyed when the orcs massed and attacked the Southlands. My family was killed, though I survived.
Well, that's unfortunate.
For years I thought of little but wreaking bloody vengeance upon the orcs. I stalked the crags with my bow, mercilessly killing all I crossed.
That doesn't sound like you at all.
Indeed, I was much different then. My vengeance consumed me, and I dealt death at every turn, but I had no peace. On the 5th winter of my hunt, I stalked an orc tribe deep into the spine of the world, and encountered a blizzard so terrible I could do naught but camp and pray. The blizzard was merciless and lasted days, and as I lay dying in the snow and wind, I spotted a human man approaching. I thought I was mad. He was tall and strong, though I noticed he was missing his right hand. The cold did not seem to affect him, and he looked down at me kindly and picked me up from the snow without effort. I remembered nothing beyond that. When I awoke, I found myself at a small Ilmitary monastery near the city of Silvery Moon. The monks told me I had nearly died.
Who is the man who had saved you?
I have often thought that he was none other than an avatar of Tyr himself, the Lord of Justice. Though perhaps that is presumptuous of me. Whoever he was, the Ilmitary monks had not seen him bring me, and I never saw him again. Or perhaps I should say, I never saw him in person. He came to me time and time again in my dreams for many months afterwards, telling me that my vengeance would bring no true justice. I refused him at first, determined to return to my bloody hunt. The dreams came more frequently, and the man grew more stern with me. The path lay elsewhere, I was told, and reluctantly I left the mountains and came to Neverwinter and entered the service of Tyr. The dreams never came again.
So you think Tyr himself commanded you to worship him?
I do not know. I did not worship him at all at first. I was resentful of the dreams and bitter over giving up my hunt of the orcs. Tyr's clerics took me in, and over time I learned their ways and grew to admire the maimed god. I chose to champion justice instead as his paladin, and found peace at long last. My dedication saw me rise through the ranks, and it was much later that I encountered the young acolyte Fenthik, and knew that I had found my true path at last.
So, were those dreams like the ones you have now?
No, they are not alike at all. The dreams in the mountains never frightened me as much. They didn't make me feel so helpless and alone. I only compare the current ones to them because they are so strong and disturb me so profoundly. I feel as if something has changed. Something has changed inside of me.
What has changed?
I do not know. Not yet. But I thank you for listening to my tale. You have been a great comfort. I am glad that you have come to work for Lord Nasher. You have so many admirable qualities, he could not be better served. I would be glad to call you a friend. Tyr only knows that finding a friend in times like these is difficult enough. I hope you feel the same.
I do. Friendship is always a wonderful thing. Some even say magic.
I am glad, my friend. Let us return to the subject of your mission, then.
I'll go now.
Then I wish...
Thank you for the tale. It was very interesting. Now then, Aaron! I also wish to hear your
A
tale.
little bird has informed me that someone has... What would you have?
You had mentioned someone named Callie.
I did. That I mentioned her at all was by accident, my friend. I have been determined to avoid those memories for many years now.
Why? What happened?
I suppose one cannot leave the story unfinished. As you wish then, my friend. Kali is short for Kaliara. She was of elven blood, a woman of extraordinary beauty and adventuresome spirit. She ran the Guild of Thieves in Neverwinter, you see, when I first began my sentence. She was also the first task Lord Nasher set me to.
This should be interesting.
I was to see to her capture, and to reduce the power of the Guild in the city. And I was eager enough to do so, though I did not know what I was up against.
Don't tell me. You fell in love?
Not at all. For quite some time, she and I were the most dire of foes. Kaliara stirred her entire guild against me, and assassins stalked my every step. The thieves had been used to holding power in the city, and did not care to be dislodged. I used every trick I knew to no avail. Finally, I chose to disguise myself and infiltrate her guild, determined to look upon my foe and end her life personally. It took me a great deal of time to do so. Kaliara trusted few, and I had to work my way up in the ranks over time until I was able to enter her inner circle.
And what? She knew you'd been there all along?
Not at first, no. Not until I killed her.
Wait, you killed her?
I should have done it sooner, when I was first trusted enough to be alone in her presence. But I was too intrigued and foolish. She enthralled me. I found her soul so similar to my own, and we drew together immediately. Despite my misgivings, I gave in and allowed myself to love her. I knew it would not last. I discovered her plan to kill Lord Nasher, and knew that the time had come to tell her who I was. It was my hope to dissuade her from her life.
How did she react?
She was not angry, as I thought she would be. Merely disappointed, perhaps, as she drew her sword. To strike her down was almost unthinkable. As we parried, I begged her to reconsider, to leave her life, to stay with me, and I would protect her from Lord Nasher's wrath. I will not change for you, Aaron, even as you would not change for me. Let it end here. Though tears blurred my eyes, upon those words I ran her through. She died moments later, as we exchanged one final kiss.
That is very sad and tragic. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have never told another that tale. There are few that I would call friend. I would be pleased to name you amongst them. Perhaps in time I might come to hear your tale. For now, however, there is much to do.
Thank you. I'll be going.
I shall await your return then. Be safe and Godspeed.
And from that sound, that ends the tale. Aaron obviously considers you a friend. His tales, however, are complete for the time being, and he will unlikely have the chance to continue. But Arabeth will continue her tale when you have achieved a higher level of experience. There's a reason for that I'll get into sometime. For now, though, we've heard all we can about the conversations and the like. There's nothing else to do here. I think it's time we move on. With our choice of Neverwinter Wood and the East and the South Road, I think the Neverwinter Wood is where we'll head next. Why not? Should be some interesting things out there, and we know some more things we need to keep an eye out for. Prism Seeds for Body Knock, the Journal of Linu's husband, the Star of Kalimshan for Tommy, and what is it we're supposed to get for Sharwin again? A lock of Nymph's hair. Alright. We will start searching for those things and take a look to the east in the next episode, because this one has gone on long enough. Till then, I'm Chester44, that is Ken Daniels and Dalen Red Tiger. This has been a Let's Play of Neverwinter Nights, and I shall see you all next time.